Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women in Crypto, where we discover the future of money, markets, and payments and meet the leaders in the new digital economy. And today we have a special guest with us. We have Lisa Short. She's an innovator, a thought leader, and founder of Mind Shifting and Advanced Technologies. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad you're here today and real excited about what's going on in cryptocurrency and for you to be one of the top leading ladies in the space. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor. There's a lot of amazing women in that space. So it is really much, a great honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what you got going on, what project you're working on right now.
Look, honestly, I don't think I've ever been as busy as I've ever been in my entire life. A number of big initiatives. They're not all around cryptocurrency, of course, and they're not all around blockchain, but they all include blockchain. Probably I've got 3 or 4 favorites at the moment. I'm actually in Australia at the moment, although I'm normally based out of the UK. I came home for a short period of time and I'm here for many months. So one of the things that I am really proud of is the fact that I'm really determined to drag Australia to the innovation table, and so have led the development of the first of its kind. It's a B2B e-commerce infrastructure platform for global trade for agri SMEs. And the initiative is actually led by another woman, which is fantastic, very intentional on my behalf. So not only is she a maverick in terms of leading a digital technology company that's using blockchain, but she's also a maverick in the sense that she's leading the agri sector, which is very traditionally male out of Australia, and that's extraordinary. So it's a big blockchain empowered and AI empowered global trade infrastructure, which will facilitate the trade between SMEs globally out of the Asia Pacific region. The other one that is sort of closely linked to that, I suppose, in some ways, is another big initiative out of Nigeria and South Africa, which is, again, around 2 parts. It's about learning for youth, but it's also around building business skills. Again, it is actually going to be for the agri sector in Nigeria and Africa, and eventually they will connect into the same digital infrastructure, global infrastructure for global trade. But the learning component of that is all around 21st century skills and getting those businesses up to date on knowledge so that they can understand their digital footprint and, of course, utilise the incredible potential of blockchain. And I think the third one, and there are a few others, but the third one is several big initiatives out of the UK that are all around data privacy, how we can actually use blockchains to share data between data centres, protect our data, our personal data, and also, of course, use that data flow in areas like supply chain, and innovative ways of improving businesses and so forth. So there's some amazing projects at the moment. So that's just 3. There's a few others, but that's pretty impressive. I guess I should also mention the in each of those is a very big education content, and a colleague and I out of the UK have developed a digital edge program, which is around digitizing and making businesses sustainable and resilient and ready for the digital age. And of course, that's very much so around blockchain.
Very important too, as we see everything move into the digital age. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa. I wanted to go back to your Agri SMA project. And could you just tell us a little bit more about how blockchain is creating efficiencies in agriculture or in your system?
Absolutely. This one is more about it's actually not about creating the efficiencies in the way the produce is produced, but it's how they can actually have the opportunity to trade. Now, obviously, it does trickle back down into how their businesses operate, but ultimately, small businesses are disadvantaged, particularly agribusinesses are disadvantaged in the sense that they don't have an access to global infrastructure that facilitates them to trade. So they generally have to go through brokers, cooperatives, join together, sell their product to other buyers who then go on to be able to globally trade. The amazing thing about utilising blockchain is that we've built an infrastructure that facilitates all the touch points it's an end-to-end process in global trade. So right from the point of where they need to actually find a buyer and a seller and literally trade in a trustless environment. So every part of their business process is verified. All the documentation and all the processes that are required in the global trade process are verified and immutably recorded. There's audit trails for transactions, the financial capacities, and all of the escrow, the trade finance is all embedded using digital currencies and blockchain. So again, when the trade occurs, money is locked away in an escrow as a smart contract. When it's delivered, it's released, so everybody gets paid on time. We bring in logistics, we bring in insurance, we bring in all the stakeholders. So it literally is a trustless, end-to-end, digital, seamless process with an audit trail and secure, safe place for these small to medium enterprises to play in. And it's the first time that it's occurred.
Wow.
What's important for agribusiness is that we've recognised that to even engage those businesses and bring them to the table, that there's a degree of education that needs to be had, and they need to be engaged, they need to understand what the opportunity means, and we need to do it step by step. So we need to bring them in a safe way, and then as they start to use the technologies, we then are starting to introduce the concepts of having digital wallets and going from using fiat to digital currency. So we'll start them off using fiat, but of course we'll exchange eventually in digital currencies.
Wow.
Now, what that means is that we eventually go into their own businesses and go, well, actually now you could actually be implementing some of these processes, such as saving money on financial transactions, making sure you've got audit trails, making sure you're compliant, etc., within their business. Cybersecurity is another big issue. So it's an end-to-end process, which is extraordinary.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is that the smart contract is actually automating so much of the where intermediaries would have, or individuals would have taken care of those, which automates the entire process.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. So a smart contract that automates not only the trade process, but for all these stakeholders that are involved. So again, because you're dealing with a small to medium enterprise, generally the risk is considered to be higher. So they don't get access to infrastructures like big logistics companies and big insurance companies. They don't get access to global credit, trade finance, those sorts of things. But when they can all be automated through a smart contract, and all assured, and all the processes are verified and assured, and all the players in that marketplace are all verified and assured, lowers risk, lowers costs, and improves opportunity. And we've got to remember that the small to medium enterprise market is 99% of the business market globally.
Right.
And yet we don't focus on that market. We focus on the 1% of the corporates. But collectively, that 99% is a very big part of the market. And interestingly, when it comes to blockchain, they are also the most receptive and agile to change, because corporates are often very difficult to change. Whereas within an SME market, they're more receptive to the conversation because their cost and profit margins are usually a lot lower, and they're more agile and receptive to want to pivot and engage in a safe way.
Okay. And so can you tell our listeners who may not be familiar what SMA is?
Small to medium enterprises. Some people, in some countries, they're called small to medium or businesses, but in most of the world, they're called small to medium enterprises. And it's worthy of clarifying the fact that a small to medium enterprise is not just a mum and dad two-person business. They can be significantly large businesses. They can be up to 250 people in some definitions, in some corporate definitions, and have multi-million dollar turnovers. But they are, in comparison to a corporate, what is called a small to medium enterprise. They're generally not publicly listed companies, they're generally private companies. So that's generally one of the differentiators. But a lot of money and 50% of the world's population work in them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, what a market to be reached to actually
Mm,
start automating processes
mm,
with smart
mm,
contracts.
mm.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about mind shifting and what mind shifting is all about.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said before in terms of we've understood for a long time that in the frontier technology space, but particularly blockchain space, that we actually aren't bringing the people to the table to even understand what this technology does. And they aren't receptive to change. And a lot of businesses aren't receptive to change. So there needs to be a significant shift in the way people are thinking, as opposed to, saying that blockchain is just about cryptocurrency. So the reason I set up mind shifting was literally to go out to the underserved part of the market in underserved areas of the world and ensure that the conversation that we have is around shifting fixed mindsets and fixed ways of thinking, so we can actually get them to start to embrace the potentials of not just blockchain, but how blockchain, AI, data, Internet of Things, other frontier technologies, better business improvement processes, better ways of thinking can make businesses more resilient and more sustainable. So mind shifting, it works in that space, and I pretty much use two tools. One of them is education, which is very, very clear because there is no global strategy around the education in 21st century skills, and there's certainly no global strategy around education in blockchain.
Exactly.
And the other one I use is frontier technology. So it literally is about shifting people's way of thinking so it makes them open and willing to want to hear the conversations that we're having around the potentials of technology. And of course, in a safe way, because it is about people. And that's very important in the conversation.
Yeah. Which brings another question, why humans are so resistant to change, right? Because we're in a
Mm,
technology age and everything seems to be
mm,
changing. We have the next version of the cell phone, or we have the next version of the computer and the latest technology. But this is so much bigger because it affects
mm.
money, markets, and payments, which is the
Correct, it
entire
does.
system. Yeah.
There's not a system, there's not a global system that won't be touched by the digital age, but there's not a global system that won't be touched either by blockchain technologies. And that's not just payments and cryptocurrencies. That's a whole range of technology, a whole range of processes, right from having a digital identity, right through to the way we actually conduct our business processes to make them more efficient. We automatically assume that everything is about payments and money, but the blockchain can be used for a transfer of anything of value and a store of anything of value and a verification of anything of value, and of course that can be anything from personal data to finance, and a range of other things in between. So it is critical that we make this about people, because the technology is not innovative, we are.
We
The
are, yeah.
technology only empowers our way of thinking. And until our way of thinking is changed, then we can't embrace the technologies. I do use a word actually, and I quite often talk about this. I'm known for this word. It's called neoteric. I call myself a maverick of change, and my broad category role is a transformational strategist. And I tend to nearly always work in the most resistive industries or most resistive sectors. And the reason I use the word neoteric is, first of all, people go, what does that mean? Because they've never heard of the word. And I say, it's actually the first part of transformational change. It's the very first part of innovation, because it's thinking differently. It means literally starting with a blank whiteboard. It's not fixing something that's already broken. It's thinking differently. It's, what if you don't do it that way, you do it this way, or you try an alternative way, or what are the alternative ways for us to do this that might deliver a much, much better outcome than what we're actually using right now. So the word neoteric does mean to think differently. And of course, that's also where the word mind shifting evolved from.
Excellent. And you're a transformationalist in creating change. And wow, you're working on some really wonderful projects. So as far as creating change, so you have also another name besides the transformationalist. You're the crypto auntie.
Yes, I am.
So
And I wear that with I do wear that with a badge of honour. I've had that for a couple of years actually, and it was given to me by a very dear colleague in the wealth management space, Alex Fazell, who is the head of marketing and operations for Swissborg. And I met him in Japan at Blockchain Unbound, I think was the conference I was there for, to speak. He heard me speak just after there had been a big conversation about Cambridge Analytica and data and so forth. And I sort of blew him away with my, I really challenged and pushed the boundaries on how people were thinking about process and how we could implement blockchain, because everything was about cryptocurrency at that time and ICOs. And I'm saying, I'm waving the banner and going, no, it's actually not. It's about lots of other things like ID and education and business and so forth.
Right.
And he caught up with me at the after party, as you do, and he realised that my passions were very much so about this technology and understanding it, and financial inclusion for everyone. And at that stage, particularly financial inclusion for women and for youth and for disadvantaged countries and developing countries and so forth, and for small to medium enterprises. So originally he wanted to call me crypto granny, and I sort of said, maybe not. So I became crypto auntie, and it has stuck. So he's my crypto nephew, and I'm crypto auntie, and I'm so well known for it. And what's really funny about it is the fact that most people do know that cryptocurrencies is probably the thing that I'm least known for. I am very passionate about cryptocurrencies and digital currencies and their use and how they will empower women and education and business. But it's certainly, I'm not somebody that would be known for, that's where you go for financial advice. But it sticks, and I'm really, really proud of it. And he also knows it came about because I have taught, my elderly parents who are 84 and 85 how to use digital currencies and what it means and the terminology and so forth. And I've also educated, young people to, for the first time buy their first $15 worth of Bitcoin and so forth. So that's how it's come about. And I do really wear it with a badge of honour.
Absolutely. You're helping your parents download cryptocurrency or create a cryptocurrency wallet. That's amazing. Wow. So
yes, it is.
I like the term you used, financial inclusion. And I want to expand on that because a lot of people are thinking, when they think cryptocurrency, they think, oh, it's another market, and, and treating it a lot just like the stock market. But what can you share with the audience, your thoughts about financial inclusion?
Look, two things actually in the last month that have been quite profound for me in this space. I was doing a lecture. One of my roles is an associate professor, and I was doing some academic lectures. I'm probably the least academic of all academics, by the way, because I really do push the boundaries even in that space. Because it's very resistant to change. And I was doing a series of lectures in Nigeria with Waterstrand University. And one of the questions I was asked, and it was around, I was delivering some challenge pieces around how the technology will empower education moving forward post the period of time that we're in now, and when we need to be virtual, and how universities could become more efficient. The question that came back to me was, what's cryptocurrency and blockchain got to do with education? I thought it was all just about money and cryptocurrency. And the first thing that I came back with and said, in some ways you are correct. The original use for blockchain was, of course, around Bitcoin, and it is around a digital form of currency. However, I said what that also means is that for someone to get an education, they need to be financially included, because unless you can actually pay for an education, you can't get an education. And digital currencies and having a digital ID will empower that. So we have a digital ID for the first time. People who are unbanked can actually be involved in the financial system. They can be involved where they can have access to a digital currency and a digital wallet, even in countries where women, for example, can't have their own bank account. And for the first time, that will flow on to education. So it was quite an amazing moment in the sense that somebody would not connect the fact that education comes at a cost, and digital currencies and having a digital ID can actually empower that. The other one, which was pretty amazing, I think, in terms of financial inclusion, it was just over the Easter period, and I was at a very close friend's home. And when I'm home in Australia, generally I get asked lots of questions because people have no idea what I do. They have no understanding of what I do. And I said, righto, enough of that, get your phones out. We're all going to download and we're going to buy our first cryptocurrency. And they sort of look of shock on their face. And in that group, I had two 70-year-olds, so their parents, my friend and her husband, and their two children. One was 19 and one's 21. And over the sort of an hour, we went from downloading a Challenger Bank application, getting all their KYC and AML and all of those things verified, and they're just totally gobsmacked at how efficient and all the process that goes into actually doing that, which they'd never seen before. It's always in their mind been around something that only somebody else sort of does. It wasn't about the practicalities of what I was showing them. We went through all of that, and I said, righto, now you've transferred your minimum amount that they could, which was $15.31. You're going to buy your first Bitcoin. And they did. So they pressed the button, they bought their first $15.31 worth of Bitcoin, which is this minute little amount. And they went, wow. And the daughter of my very close friend, who's 19, said, Auntie Lisa, can I buy just that much Bitcoin? I said, yes, you can. I said, and it's now become an asset. And I said, and here's the training app that I use. And I said, see this little tiny bit here? It was I actually had Ethereum in that account, but I said, here's 0.71 of one Ethereum. And this is what it was when it started, and this is what it is now. She said, oh, wow. She said, so I could actually put $5. I could buy $5 worth of Bitcoin. I said, yes, you can. I said, you can buy any amount that you like. You can put through, and you can buy these small amounts and build a portfolio of assets. And she was looking at it, and she was starting to understand for the first time that she was for the first time in control of her own finances, that she didn't have to be involved with a bank. She wasn't seeing fees and charges. She was seeing an instantaneous control of her finances and how she could actually use that. And then from there, what was even more profound from that component was she started asking questions about the technology. She started asking about how this can happen and what does it mean and those sorts of things. And that was amazing. So financial inclusion doesn't only mean financial inclusion for the unbanked. It means financial inclusion for the elderly. It means financial inclusion for youth. It does mean financial inclusion for those who never had access to banking and understanding. But financial inclusion means understanding as well as using. It's two things. It's where do they go once they are included, and what do they do with that knowledge? And for that part, the most amazing thing was that young woman was really lost in what she wanted to do in her career. And I sort of said to her, you could see she was really interested, have you thought about having a career in tech development? And from that conversation over the next 6 weeks, she's now going to Amsterdam to an amazing coding school called Codam for women. And that's what financial inclusion means.
Absolutely. So you actually influenced a young lady to get into technology through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Through
financial inclusion.
Through financial inclusion. Absolutely. So it's pretty amazing the fractional ownership of owning Bitcoin or Ethereum is absolutely possible with the technology. So what school did you recommend for her, for our listeners that might be thinking about the same thing?
Yeah, it's a wonderful school. A colleague of mine, Corinne Vigru, who is the founder of TomTom, set up a wonderful coding school for girls, and it's an experiential type coding school in Amsterdam, where you've got to go through an application process, and it's an amazing opportunity for young women to get out of their comfort zone. It's a very intensive program, working with business, working with innovative solutions, not just learning it academically from a university. And it's also, it's experiential. It's about, engaging with other women in the space, engaging in the entrepreneurship, space as well.
Wow.
So it's a very, very holistic. And there are others, but that's just one that I'm particularly fond of as well.
Excellent, excellent. So, well, thank you for sharing that. Now, what do you think, what advice do you have for other women that are looking to get into technology, or students that are maybe studying from home now and thinking, wow, what am I going to do? All these jobs are gone right now. And, you know, our jobs are going to change as we continue to move into the digital economy. What advice do you have for them?
Unlearn and relearn. I often say that. People say that jobs are disappearing. Some are, and they will. I prefer to use the words that they'll shift. Jobs are going to shift. They're not going, they're shifting. Without a doubt, the skill sets that we require now are very different to what we used to have. What sort of alarms me in many ways is that we're into 2020, we're 20 years into the 21st century, and yet we've got a whole next generation of learners who are not equipped with 21st century skills. There are a number of factors involved in that, but at the moment, it's my best advice would be to learn and understand the potentials of blockchain. Go out and be sponges and understand how it gets used in a wider, broader business capacity. That doesn't mean that you have to understand how the technology works. You don't have to understand how it codes. But what you do need to understand is what it means. What does it mean in terms of efficiency gains? What does it mean in terms of global markets and economics and currencies? It's understanding the ecosystem in which they're going into, that a set of skills, one of the biggest things that they need to have is resilience, because the mindset that they'll only have one career in the next 20 years is not true. They will have multiple careers. Every job will have a basic set of skills, and embedded in that will be 21st century skills, and embedded in that will be blockchain education and understanding its potential. So, my advice is use this time to actually use the technologies. Don't just learn, use them. Download a digital wallet. Go on and watch your YouTubes, and go on and do all the free virtual learning that's out there. And there's copious quantities of it. But download a digital wallet. Start exchanging currencies. Start to learn why they rise and why they fall. What's the different sorts of currencies that are out there? What do things like fundamental analysis and technical analysis and all of those sorts of terms mean? But understand the financial markets and understand a lot more about this technology while you've got an opportunity to, because every single role and job that's out there will be impacted by the digital age that we're in. But importantly, I think the other thing is that alongside that is also a capacity for intergenerational learning, because some of the skills that younger generation that are just starting to enter into, leave school and enter into the workforce require are some of the skills that we've got. It's how to communicate really well. It's how do we communicate with people from another country in terms of geopolitical knowledge? How do we understand, the nuances of business engagement and the mentorship and those sorts of skills? So they're strong ones. And I guess the third area that I would have to stress is cyber health and cyber security, and understanding data and the abilities of blockchain technology to protect that space. I couldn't encourage anybody to go into the digital world in which we're in now without having a profound knowledge of being safe in that space. It's very different having a digital exposure to what it is having a physical exposure. So blockchain, intergenerational experiences, and all the other skills. And of course, the third one would be in cyber health, and that covers cyber security and a whole range of other areas as well.
Sure. Wow. So you pretty much covered a lot of information on where women or anybody can go to actually get into the space of blockchain technology, future jobs, future careers. It is very multidiscipline.
I think for women, one of the big features about this is that it offers, in getting involved in technology, it does offer flexibility. It offers, there's a lot of work that is done remotely, which means, that sort of fits the profile of some women wanting to work that way as well. But I think there's also opportunity for advancement. There's huge opportunity for entrepreneurship. I look at older women in particular who there is a growing amount of women in their over 50s who've been divorced and left, financially insecure, and that's a very large growing percentage across the world. And technology does allow you to be able to get involved in entrepreneurship and venture creation and new startups, and a way of being in control of your own destiny and your own future, but also building wealth again that you may not get in an ordinary, traditional 9-to-5 role. So in a way, you create your own security by having, your own destiny and getting involved in a growth industry. And technology is definitely a growth industry. And it's not, you can learn so much about it, even in terms of, I know quite a number of my colleagues have gotten into technology through social media management, and had lots of experience learning about that, and then make connections and what have you. So it is an extraordinary area of work. It's a huge growth area of work. So very much so for women.
Absolutely. Well, and I like what you said, create your own destiny. That's another mindset shift that's occurring, is that people will, in our changing digital economy, take control of where they're going in their careers as things shift. So thank you so much.
I think the digital economy in that space, is quite amazing, and it is quite. I just see opportunity. Even right now, while a lot of people are seeing the doom and the gloom and are sort of running towards the cliff, ready to jump off, I'm going, there's just so much opportunity out there for us to leapfrog and keep going with the sense of momentum that we've got. I know that in terms of my work in Africa, for example, in Nigeria, we've got schools there that may not be, reopening for sort of 12 months. And they're going, well, what will we do? And they're looking for solutions. They're looking for the ways that technology can empower those situations, and they're embracing it. So, I think there's so much opportunity for growth in this sector in terms of understanding technology, but how it can be applied in existing businesses, allowing them to pivot and then become virtual and digital. So, there is the digital economy is huge, but we cannot ever forget that sitting in behind that digital economy is people. And how do those benefits of the digital economy, empower people? And there's always strengths and weaknesses in both.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we get to create the infrastructure of the blockchains too. So, well, thank you, Lisa. This has gone so fast. You've given us so much information, and you're such a busy woman with so many wonderful projects you're working on. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today so you could share with our listeners what's going on in the space. And
my absolute pleasure.
All your contributions are making a difference, that's for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, thank you for tuning in to Women in Crypto. And we'll be talking to you soon. So wishing you a great day. Thanks again, Lisa, for joining us. And
thank you.
We'll see you online.